right, thank you again for joining us today. My name is Emily Henry. I'm an Assistant Director with our Professional and Continuing Education Unit at Oregon State University. And I have here on the line with me, Christoph. So he is going to be our HR professional today to talk to you a bit about Keep Calm and Call HR, and also we'll talk a bit more about our larger program within our Professional and Continuing Education Unit. Before we dive in, I'd just like to share a few housekeeping items. Please feel free to ask questions during the webinar. There is a questions tab over on your screen there that you can type in. There's also a chat box, so either one of those are fine to share questions with the group to type in there. We will have time at the end for questions, but if there's something that is relevant to something that I'm talking about or Kristoff's talking about, please feel free to go ahead and type that in, and I'll keep my eye on those. We are recording this session, so you will all get a copy of the recording after the fact. We should put that out in about 24 hours. And and again, the questions will be addressed also at the end of the webinar, so if you think that, feel free to ask along the way as well. So just a little more information about our professional and Perfect. Sorry about that, everybody. Always a little weird audio with the phone and the computer working together. So yes, just a little information about our Professional and Continuing Education Unit. So Oregon State PACE, or Professional and Continuing Education, engages the community through educational opportunities for both personal enrichment and professional development. We offer hundreds of courses and certificate programs that are open to the public, so you don't have to be an OSU student or affiliated at all to take these courses. And we offer these courses because they really have a tangible value for your educational, professional, and economic development goals for you or your organization. We do work with organizations through corporate training as well. This provides a lot of amazing opportunities for professional and continuing education to advance careers, foster personal development, and benefit communities of all shapes and sizes. And we at PACE are really committed to bringing the best of Oregon State University to people of all ages and industries. And we're really proud in this case to be partnering with Kristoff and also our College of Business here at Oregon State to offer this webinar and the courses that it's affiliated with. So before we begin, I'd just like to share a little agenda of what we're covering today. So I'm going to introduce Kristoff to you all, and he will speak to us a bit about keeping calm and calling HR. And then I'm going to talk to you a bit about our larger PACE course of Management HR Essentials that Kristoff will be teaching. Talk to you about some of the program benefits, both for that course and for the larger certificate program that it's a part of. We'll have time for question and answer, and then I'm going to share my contact information in case you have any follow-up questions that we don't get addressed today. And so Kristoff is on the phone with us today. So Kristoff is a human resources professional with an extensive background in the hospitality service industry and banking industry. With 14 years experience with Ritz-Carlton in the US and Germany, he got firsthand knowledge and understanding for the needs of internal and external customers. After leaving hotel operations, Kristoff was able to use his knowledge to create a great learning experience for other employees and to show them ways to better engage customers and employers and employees. As an HR professional, Kristoff is involved in shaping companies' presence and futures by assuring that all HR guidelines are applied fair and consistently. And so I will hand it over to Kristoff to talk to you a bit about keeping calm and calling HR.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Emily, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christoph. I'm Director of People Services at Blue Star Resort and Golf. And when you kind of like see the bio, you see that I have quite a bit of operations background and also HR and training background. And I think that's very, very valuable to have both kind of like perspectives of what the operations is all about, how a manager in the department really is using HR, people services in a day-to-day basis, and then also how from the perspective then from people services and human resources. And as you will see, I'm using the term HR, human resources, and people services interchangeable. The kind of like when you remember maybe years and years and years ago, and you might not remember, but human resources used to be called the personnel department. And that was kind of like a little bit like, okay, that's a little bit of an old term, and then it moved into the human resources department. And then now we are kind of like very often I'm talking also about people services. So don't be confused when you hear human resources, HR, people services, personnel. It's basically all the same. It's just kind of like over time, things have changed a little bit how we call them. So back to the operations experience. I was fortunate to work for the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company in the rooms operations for quite a few years, meaning that I was a line employee, an hourly employee at the Ritz-Carlton, checking in people out and checking them into hopefully the right room and making sure that they got the experience they were looking for. And then over time I was able to continue my career and moved into management. I became an operations leader in the rooms division, and then also for a year in the spa operations. And then my boss at that time, my human resources director, she kind of like saw that I was very much interested in training and development. And so I got the opportunity to become like departmental trainer and then also a quality leader. And then there was an opening in human resources at that time, and she did an awesome job kind of like selling the HR component to me, the way that she said, well, our operations are these and these things, they're great, but when you work in human resources, you can really use your talents and training and development employees, and then also just being able to talk to a much bigger audience than what I was able to do with the operations. So that's how I kind of like went into training development. I've been in training development, human resources, I would say, for 15 plus years now. Started, as I said, in training development, quality, went into the traditional assistant human resources director, and then became human resources director at Ritz-Carlton. And then approximately 6 years ago, I left the industry. I left the hospitality industry and then moved into the banking industry and worked for JPMorgan Chase, which was a very interesting change for me, having worked for 20 plus years. Oh, my apologies. There's a couple of dogs in the background barking. Okay, thank you. Worked in the banking industry, which was really a change from hospitality, but it was time for me to kind of like step out of the comfort box and do something different. Became a site leader for JPMorgan Chase here in Phoenix, Arizona. And then after 2.5 years, I moved into a specific employee relations part of Chase, as Chase started to centralize much more their HR approach. So I became a VP, a manager consulting for employee relations. And then a year ago, I went back into the hospitality industry. After 5 years banking, I was like, okay, you know what? I would need to do something different. Again, banking is not as exciting, and I was missing the one-on-one contact with the ladies and gentlemen, with our employees and team members. So I started with Blue Star Resort and Golf, and have been doing that now for approximately a year. I'm focusing on recruiting, training and development, mainly leadership development. I'm a certified facilitator for a couple of Franklin Covey courses, like 4 Dimension of Execution and the Speed of Trust, and I'm working on some more certifications over the next couple of months. And then besides all that, I've been also an online instructor for the last 10 years. I'm very excited now to join ASU as an online instructor for this specific program. So keep calm and call HR. The reason why I chose this title is kind of like, whenever there's an HR situation, you're kind of like, wow, okay, what am I supposed to do? Panic. And then you kind of like, okay, what is our policy? What are we supposed to do? Who am I need to call? Let me fire this person right away. And then you're kind of like, hey, just keep calm, relax, and then give us a call. Give us a call in Human Resources, and we can talk about all those situations. However, what we really want to do from the HR perspective is really that we want to train the manager prior to this panic call to HR and asking for help. So as you can see on the next slides, what I want to do, touch on a couple of points here in regards to human resources challenges for the manager. What are your day-to-day challenges as a manager? Highlighting a little bit hiring versus selection, employee engagement, and being proactive versus reactive HR approach. And then it's all about documentation. So just a couple of minutes to talk about those HR challenges for managers. I think they are really as diverse as your employees are. There's never really a written. We have tons of written policies, but the situations always come up differently. And then you look at the policy, I'm like, wait a moment, this policy doesn't really fit my situation. So as a manager, you really asked to be flexible. You need to use the guidelines from HR and apply them based on the individual situation. And on one hand side, there's this black and white HR approach where, well, that's the policy, and then we need to go A to Z by the policy. But guess what? Yeah, the policy is there, but it might be just the guideline. It might give you an idea how you need to react in certain situations. And I know that can be a little bit uncomfortable for sometimes for the managers, because some people just want to go strict by the rules. But there's a lot of gray zone in HR too. So the challenges for the managers probably are really kind of like to maneuver through these individual situations and make the best decision and make decisions based on sound strategic policies and guidelines. Hiring versus selection employees. HR or people services in the ideal world will assist the manager with hiring and selecting employees, but will not make the ultimate decision to hire or fire at the end employee when we get to it. And you might ask, well, why it should be the responsibility of human resources to hire employees and terminate them, but no, absolutely not. The ultimate responsibility to hire somebody will be the manager, because the manager will be the person then who's going to work with this employee and will face music, if you want to say it like this, if they made the wrong selection. Meaning they cannot blame it on HR, like, well, you hired this person and now I have to deal with this person. It's like, no. You hired the person and you're responsible for it to really manage them through. But what's the difference between hiring versus selecting an employee? Hiring, very often you have kind of like the warm body, you need to fill a position, you get the candidates in, and then you just hire somebody, which probably quite a few companies are doing. I was fortunate, I was with Carlton Hotel Company, to really became aware of a very good selection process where you really start with making sure that when you post the position, that you're really very clear what the expectations are, what the criteria are of the position. Then you have a selection process where the employee is taking an online assessment, and this online assessment is based on not skills, but the attitudes, making sure that the person would be the right fit for the right position in the right company. And skills can always be trained, but attitudes, much more difficult to train. And then the next step would be the interview process, where you make sure that you select the right person through interviewing and asking the right questions. And please make sure whenever you have those questions to ask also what are the questions you're allowed to ask. A lot of questions you're absolutely not allowed to ask. You need to be aware of that. And then ultimately you can like look at all those different points. If you have a panel of some interviewers, you can like get that together. And then you make a decision and select the right employee for the right position. So making sure that the person is the right fit and not just hiring somebody into a position. When you use those criteria of selecting an employee, it makes much more sense and it's much easier to really create this employee engagement you're looking for. Employee engagement is really the key to the success of your company. And we recently had a discussion at Blue Star, my present employer, in regards to team member satisfaction and member satisfaction. So the team members would be the employees, a member would be our owners from our clubs. And so we are in the decision process with the 4 dimension of 4 disciplines of execution. Should we focus on the member satisfaction to increase the member satisfaction, or should we focus on the team member satisfaction? And a lot of our clubs are actually deciding, let's start with the team member satisfaction, the employee engagement, because the idea behind that, if you have high employee engagement, you will create excellent service, you will create excellent product, which will have a direct impact on the member satisfaction or the guest or the customer satisfaction. So really the focus is on employee engagement, making sure that you give the employees the right tool, engage them, show them the purpose of what they're doing and why they're doing it a certain way. So the focus on employee engagement is very, very high. And the course we are going to present to you will also, there's some components about employee engagement. Next point, proactive versus reactive HR approach. I've seen it, unfortunately, in the past company I worked for, they had a very reactive HR approach. So they focus only like, oh, something happened, now we need to write the employee up, now we need to coach and counsel them, now we need to train them, now we need to tell them about the right policies. And then if that's not working, then we follow the next step, and if that doesn't working, we need to terminate. So it was all about reactive. We didn't really do anything proactive. We didn't give the employees the right tools from the beginning. We didn't probably also select the right employees from the beginning. We did not invest enough money in training and development, didn't invest in the employees' engagement. So when you're much more proactive, then as an HR professional or as a manager, you have to worry much less to kind of like counsel or use progressive discipline on the employee. So really want to highlight whatever you can do to be more proactive instead of the reactive makes life much easier and makes life much more fun for the employee and for you as a manager or as an employee. Last but not least, all about documentation, documentation, documentation. What's not in any written form doesn't really exist in HR. Whenever you have something positive to say about the employer and you want to make it very formal, put it in writing. One of the examples would be for performance management. Make sure that you put great examples into your performance management in your yearly employee reviews or your quarterly employee reviews. So have some good documentation supporting why you think this is such a great employee. That could be comments from guests, that could be a 360 feedback from other employees, from managers. Make sure you have that well documented. And then from the kind of like the a little bit negative part, obviously, in regards to performance management, if you need to address performance concerns, make sure that everything is documented in the right and appropriate format. So I've seen it over and over again that a manager approaches me like, I have so many issues with this employee, we need to terminate. And I'm like, okay, show me the documentation. How did you document previous situations? What was the issue? What did you do to help the employee? And what did you tell the employee what the next steps would be? And then it was like, well, I didn't really write anything down. I had a conversation, but that was all, which unfortunately, as you probably know, it's not enough. If you kind of like go further into situations, let's say after terminations, where you need to defend your decision that you terminated your employee or whatever decision you made, you need to have good, proper documentation in place to show that you didn't just jump to a conclusion. You show that there was some progressive counseling or some progressive situations which have been addressed. So that's where the documentation come into place. At any time, as I mentioned in the beginning, keep calm and call HR. My apologies. There's somebody ringing the doorbell and the dogs are answering. Oh, no, it's fine. In regards to the last slide I have for you, my apologies. Guys, in regards to the last slide, those are just a couple of keywords I want to highlight in HR, and it's all about career, it's about purpose, it's about selection, it's about attitude, it's about respect, about values, performance, competency development, all these things. That's all what we need to have in HR. And I hope that kind of like gives you an idea how important the HR world is and how many different areas there are. Okay, those are all the things I quickly wanted to cover. Emily, is there anything else you want me to cover?
No, I think that's perfect. We do have a few questions that tie in well with what you were just speaking to. We can do a few now and do a few later. So do you have any favorite questions that you use to find a candidate who's really a good fit when you're thinking back on that selection process? Is there anything you recommend in terms of some questions maybe during the interview process?
In the interview process, it's really make sure that you have a very good guide on your hand so that you're very well prepared asking certain type of questions. And what I've seen in the past works best is really ask questions which kind of like go back to behavioral type of questions. So the idea in regards to this type of question is that if you ask somebody about a certain situation which happened in the past and they can describe the situation, there's a pretty good predictor that this person would do the same thing in the future. So the behavioral kind of like focused questions are probably the best, I would say. But if you like, yeah, we definitely can answer questions right now. That's totally fine.
Okay, great. There's one more that relates to that would be good as well. So what's the biggest thing that is overlooked when hiring a new employee?
Well, let me rephrase the question if it's okay. A lot of people are just looking at the skill set and don't look really at the attitude of the person. So that's probably what is being overlooked very often. Because skills you can always train. Granted, it takes time to train somebody in certain skills, but attitude, positivity, friendliness, just being open and interested, that's something you can't really train very well. That's something you need to try and see if you can see through the resume and through the interviewing process that this person really is the right fit for your position. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge at times.
Great, thank you. All right, I'll give people a little more time to type in some questions and talk a little bit more about the overall program that we are offering. So this Management Human Resource Essentials course that Kristoff is teaching is part of a larger business administration certificate. And the course that Kristoff is teaching starts on November 13th, so about a month away. It's fully online, and it's about 25 hours of coursework over 5 weeks, so about 5 hours a week of coursework. That includes readings or any sort of activities that you have going on during that week. And this course is really great for professionals who want to increase their understanding of human resources and grow their leadership skills. This is a great intro to HR. We'll build on a lot of the topics that Kristoff has shared with us today and gives you a great foundation, whether it's someone new to the field, interested in the field, new to running a business, all of those kind of folks would be a great fit for this program. So some of the things you'll learn in this program, you'll learn more about federal employment laws and resources for staying up to date on those changes to any of those laws. Think more about your recruiting strategies that improve employee and organizational effectiveness. Think about your leadership skills and be able to apply new leadership skills, including emotionally intelligent communication strategies, thinking about coaching and conflict resolution, and then thinking about that documentation piece that Kristoff mentioned. So how do you keep records? How are you doing performance appraisals? Just thinking about really keeping great documentation. And so why choose PACE's program? So as I mentioned before, these programs are open to anyone, so I think that makes it a really great option for people that don't want to go back and necessarily get a degree or enroll in the full university setting, but want to get these immediate returns that apply directly to jobs and the changing job market of today. So build those skills that are directly applicable by working with professionals that come out of these industries that are really up to date on what's happening industry currently. These courses can really diversify your skills and build your resume, or just are great for personal enrichment too if you're not necessarily an HR professional but think this could really build into your hiring practices, your company culture, that sort of thing. This could be a great overview of getting some of those HR skills without having to necessarily be a trained HR professional. And then one of our ties is to our extended campus unit here at Oregon State, which does all the online credit classes. And so we have those resources that really bring state-of-the-art technology to online courses and online education. And so we have a couple more questions that I'll run by you, Kristoff. We have a couple questions about company culture. And one question is, do you have any favorite tips or tools for creating a work culture that employees really love?
Absolutely, and it's great that somebody asked me about company culture. That's something very close to my heart, especially when I'm going back to the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company. If you know Ritz-Carlton, this company is built on a very strong culture and values and their vision and the mission. And so working now for Blue Star, it's also a company which has some very strong values and the vision of the companies very close to the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company. So I was fortunate that I was part of creating it's in the past it was Ritz-Carlton has like a credo card, it's like a philosophy card. So we put all our philosophy, our vision, our mission, our values into one format and created a small card. And looked at it and said, you know what, that's all great, but we are missing something in regards to our foundations. And the missing part was really the focus on the employees. So asked our employees, please help us to create a team member promise. So that team member promise is really kind of a focus on our team members, how we as a company can really enhance their lives, and how the team members in reverse also promise that how they will enhance our members' life, our employees' life. So involving employees in creating, for example, a team member promise and being part of the engagement process really was very, very important for us. One key point you always need to keep in mind in regards to company culture is it's not enough to just create something, put it on the wall and say, here it is. You really need to talk about it on a day-to-day basis, and not only talk about it, but walk your talk, enliven that team member promise. And that's really a process which is ongoing. Every day I'm kind of like trying to find new ways and new ideas how we can make sure that this is well alive and not just hanging on the wall. So making team members part of it, having them engaged, and quickly going back to the selection process, when you select employees, make sure that you select them based on your culture, on your vision, on your mission. And when you have an employee interview, pull out that card and say, hey, what do you think of this? Tell me a little bit about it. What do you think? What are your priorities? And make sure that they match the employees or the candidate vision, the values match your company's vision and values.
Great. And then we have one that ties in with this a little bit, so I don't know if if this has much of a different answer, but is there a common factor that leads to a negative or unhealthy culture?
Absolutely, yes. I would say it starts really with the manager. So going back to the example, you need to talk about it on a day-to-day basis. Well, if the managers are not talking about it, if they're not walking their talk, if it's not supported by the leadership, then you can just put it on this paper, and the employees are going to be like, well, it's great that you put it on paper, but my managers are not even going to do what we are supposed to do. They are not supporting our philosophy. They are not leading by examples. So I think that's the biggest challenge we have when managers are not leading by example and not doing what the culture asks them to do.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristoff, for all that great information. So it looks like those are all the questions we have now, unless somebody types one more in while I finish up here. But how do I get started? So the course starts on November 13th. You can register by visiting us online at pace.oregonstate.edu or following the link here on the slide. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at the phone number listed here, or you can email me directly at emily.henry@oregonstate.edu. And again, on behalf of professional and continuing education at Oregon State, we just want to thank you for joining us today. And we hope you'll join us for the Management HR Essentials course starting next month. And thank you again, Kristoff, for all the great information.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm very excited. I hope some of you who are listening are going to join us for that 5-week course. Again, it's a great course to start with the foundations of human resources. You will get a great overview of the different parts, which kind of like the moving parts in HR. And so it's very valuable information if you are just somebody who is an hourly employee right now and just starting his or her career, or if you're a seasoned manager. I think it's a really good reminder to go back to the basics a little bit and see what HR Foundations is all about.
Great. Thanks so much, Kristoff, and thanks everyone for joining us today. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.